Welcome back to My Classic Fords. So today we're going to work on the Jcb Backhoe that we have here. I think this thing's an 1984. It's got a 4-cylinder Perkins diesel in it. It's a pretty good old machine. It was overheating the other day, and I'm sort of thinking that it has an electric fan. The alternator for some reason stopped charging. The battery died. So I thought, well, maybe when I was running it, I didn't notice, and maybe the electric fan maybe just ran out of power. Maybe that's why it overheated. The other thing I noticed, I know the belt's getting quite bad. You can see the cracks in it. And just maybe the alternator stopped spinning, and maybe the water pump stopped spinning, because I can turn the pulley in the belt really easy. So I'm thinking maybe at high RPM, maybe the belt's not turning the alternator fast enough anymore, and maybe the water pump as well. So I'm going to stick a belt on it. That's a cheap, easy spot to start when you have a problem. That belt's been on there for a while, and well, I mean, maybe the alternator's stuck too. We'll have to check that out. Sometimes the alternator can seize up over time, and maybe the belt was spinning. Maybe that's why the belt wore out. Maybe a little premature, I don't know. So first things first, I'm going to loosen up the alternator bracket. So the bolt on top, we'll loosen that. We'll loosen the one on the bottom. We'll slide the alternator in, and we'll check to see if the alternator is seized. And we'll put a belt on. So I got my little apprentice with me. If you're gonna have this old stuff around, you gotta teach them young how to work on it themselves. This old stuff is great, but if you can't work on it yourself, or you don't have the ability to do it, it would cost you a astronomical pile of money to keep these old things going. Okay, so I got the new belt on. That one definitely looks a whole lot better than the old one. And as you can see, I can't spin this anymore. So I'm going to say that new belt has got a heck of a lot more traction. So I'm hoping that my overheating problem was just caused by this belt being extremely wore. As you can see, not only is it cracked well beyond its life expectancy, see how shiny it is? You can definitely tell that belt has been spinning on there. Probably the crank is spinning into the belt. The belt's probably just barely going around. My guess is the engine's at, say, 2,000 RPM. The belt's probably only at 500. I'm hoping that was my problem. Hopefully with the charging problem and the overheating problem, they kind of seem to happen at the same time. In hindsight, when your belt gets that bad, you should take the time to change it. Because in my case, it could have been a whole lot worse. I could have caused some damage to my engine. Luckily, I caught it when it started getting hot, and I shut it down. Yeah, this just goes to show that whether that is the problem or not, that definitely needed to be changed. All right, so I thought I would do an update on the budget landscaping. So I've got it all leveled out with the backhoe. If you remember from the last video, this was just more or less a gravel pit over here. I found some topsoil up in my pit. It was essentially free. I'm not going for a professional lawn by any means. Like I said, I drive over my grass with cars, trucks, whatever. But I want it to look good. We're going to put a flower garden up close to the house, so that means we're going to have to dig the old boat out, get it off the deck. But essentially, what's going to happen next, now that it's leveled out, I found some topsoil up in the top of my gravel pit that was actually pretty clean. It had like really hardly any rock in it. And that's the pile you see just past the big rock pile. I mixed it with horse manure and sand, and that's what I'm gonna try to sprinkle over top and give myself something I can actually put a rake to and clean it up and plant some grass in. This is something that, you know, I can do myself. I'm just doing it with the materials that I have and with the old machine that I have. Like I said, I'm not going for anything professional. I just want to show you what you can do with, you know, a little bit of half decent dirt and a little bit of time. We are eventually going to clear that big wad of trees and bushes out, but for this year we're just going to stick with what we got. All right. Okay, so I'm back at the old backhoe here and still have an overheating problem after changing the belt. So I pulled the thermostat out, which is just in this housing here. So I pulled that out and it seemed to work pretty well all day without overheating or without even getting hot. And just out of nowhere, it got hot at the end of the day. So the thermostat, I thought, might have been the problem, although it didn't seem like it was stuck. I took it out anyway, and it gave me false information. So now I'm thinking it could be the rad cap. That's the rad cap laying right there. And I just noticed down inside, the bottom of the rad cap is down inside. I don't know if you can see it, but so what I've done, I geared up a couple 3/8 extension with a wad of tape on it. It's not magnetic because it's brass, so you can't use a magnet. And I'm hoping that I can just stick it to a piece of tape and pull it out. And there it is, right there. Trying to get it through the hole will be a little bit of a challenge. Just hold your breath the right way, maybe. Well, that's just barely on that tape. Okay. So there's the bottom of the rad cap. So I'm glad I got that fished out of there. And this is none other than a genuine Ford rad cap. I took it off an old junk truck I got. Seems good and solid. I had to take the grinder and modify the tabs just because these are bigger. These little tabs just go down over here. So I just cut them down a little bit. So now we'll see if this does the trick or not. Hopefully with a new rad cap and a fresh belt, hopefully she runs nice and cool. All right, we'll try it again. All right, hopefully it's not too windy. I apologize for any wind noise, but I just want to summarize up what we did to the backhoe to get it to stop overheating. So it stopped charging, we changed the belt, and that fixed that. So the belt was just wore out and not spinning the alternator good enough. I ran it for a bit, it overheated again, and I took the thermostat out, and I ran it for the whole day, and it never got hot. So I thought I might have solved it, but that wasn't the case. It was the rad cap, so I've now ran it for a couple of days, and it hasn't overheated again. I had to put the thermostat back in just to make heat in the wintertime. But so, long story short, when you have a problem on something like this, start out cheap. Start with the cheapest things you can think of and just give it a little time. I've said in the past, I'll say it again, when you have this old stuff, you got to do the work yourself. You got to kind of think a little bit. I spent, I think it was $15 on a belt, and I had a rad cap on an old truck. I just modified it to fit. So long story short, if you took this somewhere, I don't know what you would have spent to get them to figure it out, but I know what I spent, so hopefully I can help you out a little bit. All right, guys, Thanks for watching.